Welcome to Work From Your Happy Place, the podcast that equips you with the tools, know-how, and motivation to live your dreams and find your happy place. Be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter for a recap of the week's guests and a preview of what's in store. To sign up, simply text the word Happy Place with no space to 33444. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the host of Work From Your Happy Place, Belinda Ellsworth.
Hi, everyone. This is Belinda Ellsworth, and I am so excited to be here today with one of our very first podcasts, Work From Your Happy Place. I am so thrilled and excited. I've worked with entrepreneurs for over 36 years, and the one thing that I hear from them all of the time is that they love being in control of their own life. They love creating their own destiny. They love just being happy, being in the place where they are. And that was really the inspiration of this show. You're going to hear from people that own their own businesses, people involved in the direct sales industry, where I've spent a good majority of my career working with individuals who have had great success. And you're just going to hear from people that even work a 9-to-5 job but are extremely happy and make the most of that job and have lived with it with intention and happiness. So you're going to get to hear from a lot of people who live with intention, live with happiness, and really create the space around them to be what they want it to be. I am so thrilled today to have a really awesome individual with me, Rachel Huse. And Rachel is with Jamberry, and she's going to tell us all about her exciting journey and what it means to be an entrepreneur and to work from her happy place. Rachel, never having been considered a career in direct sales, she found Jamberry at the busiest time in her life. With her husband deployed, homeschooling her children, and involved in a plethora of outside commitments, she decided to take on the challenge and earn enough to hire someone to clean her house. A little over 3 years later, she is now one of the top earners at Jamberry, the third to hit the highest rank in the company, and leads an amazing team of over 40,000 consultants. Wow. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Belinda. I'm so thankful to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Oh, it is my pleasure. You know, just in reading that bio there, we're going to get into the interview, but just a couple of things to point out in that. You know, it always seems to happen that something pretty amazing comes our way in one of the busiest times in our life, and sometimes when we're not even necessarily searching for it. It sounds like that was the case with you and Jamberry.
It was, yes. It was something that, you know, you're, like you said, the busiest time of your life, and not something that I ever expected, actually something I didn't ever want to get into. So it was caught me off guard, quite by surprise.
That is awesome. So why don't you just fill in the gaps for us a little bit? Tell us a little bit about yourself and just who is Rachel Huse? Tell us all about. Everyone wants to know.
Well, I'm sure this will be riveting. I am actually a St. Louis native, but 12 years ago, I married a soldier, and we've kind of been all over the country, and recently we moved to Washington State. I'm a mother of 2 spunky young daughters. I have a type A personality, and sometimes I consider myself a control freak. And a little silly side note, I actually have a bit of a reputation in my company because of my adoration of protein. I have a bacon fetish. But in a life prior to Jamberry, I was kind of on the road up the corporate ladder, and that was a really draining time in my life, and started having kids. And then, you know, I found Jamberry in 2013.
That is awesome. Now tell us a little bit about that, and how did you come upon that?
Well, it was kind of a serendipitous type moment. I was introduced to direct sales just as a whole, kind of by an old high school friend who had an online party for Jamberry. And she joined the company and then asked me to have a party for her. So I did that reluctantly, but we had a bunch of fun. And so a couple $100 into the party, I called her and asked her how much she was making off of me. And when she told me, it just kind of hit me that this might be something that I could add to my already crazy schedule to kind of afford us the opportunity to have a guilt-free house cleaner. And along the way, I kind of forgot that I'm an all or nothing person. So I ended up seeing the possibility in the business and just kind of jumped in head first. You know, my upline was making about $8,000 a month at the time. And my initial goal was just to beat her. I still haven't beat her, but I enjoy being second to her every month. So that's kind of how my journey got started.
Well, that is awesome. And one of the things going back to that, I really do think that people have to be open. So obviously there was a point in there that you were open to a new idea, because I think that when people, like you said, it happened to me at one of the busiest times of my life when I wasn't really searching for it. And I find in this search of happiness that people are always trying to have something land or just come to them. And it's really about being intentional in life and living life to kind of the fullest, and then being open to ideas. Wouldn't you agree with that? Or do you feel that that was kind of the case with you?
Absolutely. I think, it came at a time where legitimately that's all I wanted was someone to clean my house. That was my biggest struggle at the time. And I never would have considered direct sales. So yes, I was open to the possibility to earn a couple $100 extra. So with those two pieces right in place, it just, that came at the perfect time. And definitely, it wasn't an easy decision, but you're right. I was definitely open to considering it, obviously.
That's awesome. So tell us how the business has shaped your lifestyle. We're talking about working from your happy place and being happy, but how has this decision then shaped your lifestyle, being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's a really great question. My biggest goal in life has really always been to be a mom. No matter what I was doing, corporate ladder, college, it didn't matter. That was always my goal. So having earned that title about 9 years ago, my next step in that goal was to always stay at home with my children. Excuse me. But I've always had like a sort of a hobby on the side that brought in a little bit of cash, just something that was, my own, something to do. So, but I never really truly owned my own business like I do now. So I get to move across the country, which is one of the biggest things whenever it's necessary, because of course my husband's in the military. So to support his military career, we have to drop everything and go, excuse me, when necessary. So I get to do that without having to worry about moving my business. I get to drop off and pick up my kids every day from school. I get to be at the parent-teacher conferences and the fundraising events and all of that, really while making more money than I ever dreamed possible. So that has really been probably had the biggest impact on us as a family. And then kind of as a side note, but a really big side note, I truly never believed that it would be possible to be debt-free. You hear that from people, and a lot in, obviously most of those are in there when they're independent, whether they are in direct sales or just an entrepreneur in general. But you hear about people becoming debt-free, but I didn't think it was possible. And just about a year into my business, we realized that dream too. So the comfort and the flexibility and the freedom in all aspects that this business has given us has really just changed us dramatically.
Oh, that is awesome. And I know that is, you said you did a little, on a side note, you did something before you started doing this, that you were doing something on your own. Do you mind sharing?
Yes, I was on Etsy and I made children's clothing and repurposed adult clothing into children's clothing. And it was just a little side gig and it was fun and made a little bit of cash, not ever enough to even hire a house cleaner, but it was something that I feel like I always needed something that was for me. So that's been a constant in my life for sure.
The reason I asked you that is because I think if people would trace back, I know for me, I had to trace back in doing this show. When was I first an entrepreneur? And when I really trace it back, it goes all the way back to grade school, where I just had that desire to make something or create something or have something of my own. And I think that is at the heart of all of us that end up finding that special thing. You found Jamberry, but at your heart, you've always had that desire to sort of have something of your own. And I think that is sort of that hidden thing within all of us. It's a shared common thread that people they look at an entrepreneur and they think, oh, I don't know if I could ever be in business for myself. But if people would trace it back, the people that are really awesome entrepreneurs or have their own business or are living the life that they want, it's because they kind of had that mindset from really an early on time. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. I think if anybody were to look back and think of the days when they desired to have a lemonade stand, I mean, that's one of your first signs that you have that entrepreneurial spirit. Now, whether you develop that or not over time is up to you. But I think that definitely comes into play for sure.
Absolutely. So tell us about, I'm the trainer. I've been a trainer for a number of years, so I always want to bring value to our listeners and have something that they can take away. So tell us about one or two of your greatest skill sets that you think has really helped you in owning your own business.
Okay, that's really great. I'll start with this. I think this is probably going to sound a little cliche because we always hear the term the consistency is key, but it's so true. And if you really stop and think about it, what that really means and how that plays into your business, being intentional with your time on your business. And that's kind of how I've really focused I think I focused my life that way in general, but definitely in business, being intentional with my time spent on my business and then persistent about keeping those gears turning really has kept my momentum going these last 3 years in particular. Consistency over that long term, I believe, is what keeps you level-headed when you're in, your really good times, everything's going really well, and you could just take that and run with it. It really keeps you level-headed to have that consistency, but it also keeps you afloat during those not so good times when things maybe could appear that they're not going the way you had intended. Keeping that consistency, that persistence, and being intentional with your time helps you to get through all of those types of challenges, just knowing that this is what's going to benefit you in the long term. And then I would say that building leaders that's probably the other one that really sticks out to me the most. That's kind of the biggest part of my passion of this business, recognizing leadership qualities and then helping those individuals with those qualities to build on those qualities is kind of like a fun little puzzle for me to put together. I have this vision for my business, and I got that from you, Belinda. That's something that you inspired in me and has been really keeping me going with this vision for my business. And if I'm communicating that to my team and I'm really showing them how they fit in that vision and keeping them on track, that's really a fun, just passion for me. Good leaders build more leaders, right? So one of the biggest goals every year I have is to increase my leadership team. And I set high expectations for my leaders. I try to equip them with the tools to meet those expectations. And then I give them homework and such. And we just kind of have a fun time along the way. And I get to watch them reach those stretch goals and gain confidence and obviously increase their income along the way. So I would just say that the being intentional and then building leaders, those are probably two of the greatest skill sets that I pull on with this business.
Great. So in your first one with consistency, and you're right, some people could say it's a cliche. I train it. It's one of my 4 cornerstones of success is being consistent. But give us an idea in a daily life, how that plays out, because then it isn't a cliche. It's like, right, this is real. And that's what I always try to bring to people when I'm training is they want to say, okay, well, what's a day in the life look like then when you are consistent? So just give us like a little bit of an idea on what consistency represents for you.
So for me, it's, a lot of people, they have full-time jobs on the side of whatever other business they're running. And for me, I don't. This is my full-time job, but I do raise my kids. And like I said, I was homeschooling before. So there are moments, I have my hours that I have every day set aside for business. And I can go into that on how I'm intentional during those times. But I think what's more important is the times that maybe aren't scheduled are set aside for business. So one of the examples I think is really clear here is that just the other day I was waiting in the carpool line for my daughters and I was about 10 minutes early. And what I really wanted to do was turn on music and just relax and not do anything, not think about anything. But I have my list that's with me at all times and everything, that I kind of need to get done for the day. And I thought, I've got 10 minutes. Why don't I spend some time to pour into one of my consultants? So I called one of the girls on my team and just asked how she was doing, kind of caught up with her, had a mini coaching call with her, and kept that list. I'm now dwindling, but I kept that time really devoted to my business, which in my overall personal vision, that's what I need to be doing. Not always just sitting in the carpool line relaxing. And then, of course, doing that same kind of thing on my way home. Kids were being quiet. They're reading their books and being nice and respectful in the back seat. And it was a great opportunity for me to call on some customers and do some follow-up customer care. And so I think just taking those little bits of opportunity, people say I don't have enough time for XYZ. I don't know how to fit this into my schedule. And really, if we think about it, we do have enough time. We just have to have that consistency and use the little spaces of time we can to be intentional about that business.
That is great. And on the second one, I loved what you said about just really finding out people's greatest skill sets and really helping them to achieve what they want or finding their vision. But so what are some of the things that you might do with a new leader or a potential leader and to really hone in on what that is? Do you, like some people would say, well, I sent out a sheet to them and I ask them questions, or I have them fill out a vision sheet, or I find the top 3 people that I really want to work with. So what do you think that you do? Because that's obviously something that you listed as one of your greatest skill sets. So how do you go about that? What is sort of your routine for discovering those greatest things in individuals?
I think there's a couple ways to do this. And one of the 2 ways that I really focus on doing it is I give this opportunity to everyone. There are leaders who may not exhibit the qualities that I think are leadership qualities, but maybe they just haven't had the opportunity to exhibit those to me. So I give the opportunity to anyone who feels like they want to be in leadership to come to me and work on coaching to develop them as a leader. So that's one way. And then the other way, I obviously will pick up on just these active producers, really, people who are really doing the same types of things that I think are successful leaders do, by being intentional and by taking care of their teams and by focusing on personal growth. And when I see those, then I go after those individuals and say, listen, you exemplify these qualities. I would love to work with you as a leader. And then when we talk and we get on these coaching calls, I really establish a couple things. I establish why they're in the business, just to remind them, if they've been around, just kind of why are you here and what is keeping you here, just to refresh them on that. And we talk about goals, their short-term goals and their long-term goals, and really get a good idea to see if their time commitment is balanced with what they expect in the business. And if it's not, we kind of work through that, and I kind of help them to hone in on what to expect. And then we talk about their strengths and their weaknesses, and we celebrate their strengths, but we really dig in and try to increase the strength in their weak areas. And I have found that once they gain some of that confidence in those weak areas, things start to really fall into place. And so as long as we can get them on these calls and really talk about the legitimate reasons they're here and what they plan on doing with this business, keeping that really fresh in their heads, I feel like they get that commitment to leadership.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. I know that a lot of people listening are going to appreciate that. Okay, so tell us, Rachel, about an obstacle or a challenge that you have faced and how you worked through that.
Ooh, this is a little bit tougher of a question. I feel like I'm the type of person where I don't tend to focus on challenges for too long. I kind of jump the hurdle, I learn the lesson, and then I tend to not really look back on it. I can be kind of pretty hard-nosed when it comes to business in that way. So I guess that one obstacle that more consistently pops up would be me wanting this business to be successful more for someone than they want it for themselves. And I think seeing a potential in somebody and really wishing that they saw that same potential in themselves is a hard pill to swallow. In business, we hear it's hard to find good help. And in my business, I feel like it's easy to find great people, but finding someone who really wants to unleash that success that I know is in them is kind of another thing. Not everybody wants to treat their job like a business, and that part I think is harder to find. So part of the beauty in owning your own business is that each person is able to make that decision on their own. but I find that my prior corporate mindset doesn't really stop now that I'm independent. But the emotional attachment, I think, is what, the attachment I have to others and their success is something that I just didn't expect. So that letdown when they don't see it is really challenging for me. So to be able to work through that, this sounds pretty just kind of brash, but I put on my big girl pants and I deal. I think that one of the hardest lessons to learn as an entrepreneur is that you are not always going to find someone who has that same vision for their business as you do. So learning that there's a season and a reason for every person to be there, and that it might not be their season right now, and just learning to cut that rope and put your focus somewhere else is really was a hard lesson to learn. But I feel like that's something that continues to pop up for me that has proven to be a bit of a challenge.
Well, that's great. And I think for especially people in direct sales, that is definitely always a challenge, is we really want it more for people than oftentimes they want it for themselves. And I know that's a thread and a common thread amongst all the really great leaders, is just learning how to balance that, helping those individuals to grasp that vision, and at the same time, discovering the ones that just don't want it. I loved what you said, reason for the season or something like that. And knowing that it's just maybe not the right time and that they don't really want it bad enough, and that we have to just move on to work with the people that really do, all the while keeping people sort of engaged. I think that is the best that we can do, is let them know we're there. We're available anytime that they're ready to make that shift. We're ready to help them take the journey, but understanding that it's not in our control. It's completely in theirs.
Right. Absolutely. Lack of control.
Big question. What does working from your happy place mean to you?
Okay. Well, I think there's probably two ways to answer that, personally and professionally. So personally, I've said this in the beginning, but being able to actually be a stay-at-home mom, working with my kids, running around the house, as real life and distracting as that can be, it really is my happy place. It's the best of both worlds. So being able to earn that incredible income, but also really to stay grounded by breaking up the fights over My Little Ponies. It doesn't really get much better than that. So I would say personally, that's what I would consider my happy place. Professionally, my happy place will never be in a cubicle, or definitely not on somebody else's watch. So the fact that I get to go to a local coffee shop and share the love of my product with my friends, or do coaching calls on my back porch looking at Mount Rainier, or even, traveling and taking these exotic trips. Maybe the series should be called Working from Your Happy Places, because I can't just pick one. The freedom of this is almost overwhelming. But that's what I would say, professionally and personally. Those are my two happy places.
Well, it's funny because the inspiration for me doing this was an individual who decided they were going to take a year and travel all over the world and see if they could continue their job and their business from absolutely anywhere in the world. And they spent one whole year traveling the world and actually continuing their job, being successful, and working from just all over the place, and really saying, you know what, when you are in business for yourself, you can be present in whatever moment you want to be present in. And so that was really the inspiration. And so I would agree with you 100%. It isn't one thing, but I do think that people sometimes aren't even really understanding their happiness, or not really having gratitude for that. Of, I am right now in a coffee shop choosing my hours and my time, or even though my kids are driving me nuts right now, I'm the one here taking care of it. And I think that we have to always have an attitude of gratitude. And that is really, at the end of the day, no matter what our circumstance is, I believe is what makes us happy, is when we can be really thankful and grateful for the opportunities that we have.
Absolutely. I agree.
Awesome. So share with us something that you are extremely proud of, maybe an accomplishment, or maybe it's just something in your life the values that you have or that you've been able to experience or situations. So what is something that you're really proud of?
Aside from my kids, which I'm extremely proud of that, I developed some great kids. I think that I take this question kind of as a professional. What am I extremely proud of professionally? Mm-hmm. And I think, like I said earlier, I love developing leaders. So being able to coach with someone and watch them get through their struggles and challenges and see them come out of on the other side and really be super stoked about their business is really exhilarating for me. But I think one of the biggest proud moments I've had throughout this whole journey is being able to help my friends and help them join in the business with me too. So to see their lives changed because of the opportunity I was able to give them is life-changing for me. I have friends who have just, all they wanted to do was take their family to Disney, or they just wanted to go on a vacation. And I've had friends who have retired their husbands, or they've left their full-time jobs and are now on their own time. And even somebody who can now take her family out to dinner on Jamberry's dime without guilt. So those are the types of things that I'm really proud of that are close to home, that I had a hand in giving them an opportunity to join my team, to work for my amazing company, and to be part of the vision that I have for all of us. And I'm really proud of that.
That's awesome. So in the end, what advice would you give to others who want to be entrepreneurs?
That's a great question. There's probably a lot of advice I feel like I could give to an aspiring entrepreneur, but I think maybe two things that are imperative to entrepreneurial success would be passion and vision. And I kind of work, I teach my team a lot on analogies. And I think a good analogy with this is weight loss. Losing weight is always harder than we think it's going to be. And it always definitely takes longer than we think it's going to take. But if we have an idea of what we want our body to do and how we want it to perform and how we want it to look, we're more likely to fight through the stalls and the cravings that we have because we have the passion for our health and the vision for what we want to achieve. So I feel like having that authentic passion and vision is so important as an entrepreneur. Achieving a high level of success is probably going to take you longer than you think it's going to take. And it's probably going to be a lot more work than you thought it was going to be. You're probably going to have some challenges along the way, but when you have that passion for what you're doing or even what you're offering and a vision of what that end result looks like for you, then you're much more likely to fight through those inevitable challenges that come our way. So keeping with that authentic passion and vision, I think your chances of success are just so much higher.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I know that everyone is going to really enjoy listening to this interview as well as benefit from this because you gave some really great lessons as well as sharing a little bit of your life and what that looks like and what it means to you. And, I think there's two things for us, and I'm completely in agreement with passion and vision, but it's really we're hoping to inspire people with what you've heard today, that this is possible for you too. Each and every single person can make their dreams a reality if they just apply some of these simple techniques, skill sets, and some of the things that Rachel has shared with you today. And also, we hope to give you some tools, and I think that we've done that today as well. Some things that you can do on a day-to-day basis to also make that vision that you have become a reality. So I want to thank you so much. And thank you for being one of our first on our new podcast show. I know it's exciting.
It is.
I'm pretty fired up about it. So thank you so much. And I just can't wait to see what other great things are in store for you, which I know you're just really 3 years into it, just really on the brink of creating the life you've always dreamed possible. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Belinda. I'm blessed to be here. So happy 2016 to everybody, and I'm looking forward to the future too.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us at Work From Your Happy Place. If you like what you hear, please share it with your friends, and be sure to rate and review us on iTunes or Stitcher. For a free gift on finding your own happy place, please visit workfromyourhappyplace.com and click on the free audio button. Thanks again for listening.